Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We start today's Bhagwatam class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tata Jayam Udiret Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna Dandat Pranam. We today continuing Srimad Bhagwatam, Canto 11, Chapter 10, the nature of fruitive activities, from Shloka 17 to 29. तत्र अपि कर्मणां कर्तुः अस्वातन्त्र्यं च लक्ष्यते भोक्तुः च दुःखसुखयोः कः नु कर्तव्यं भजेत् न देहिनां सुखं किंचित् विद्यते विदुषाम् अपि तथा च दुःखं मूढाणां वृथा अहङ्करणं परम्. यदि प्राप्तिं विघातं च जानन्ति सुख दुःखयोः ते अपि अद्दान विदुः योगं मृत्यु न प्रभवेत् यथा कः अनु अर्थं सुखयति एनं कामः वा मृत्यु अन्तिके आघातं नियमानस्य वद्यस्य इव न तुष्टिदः. श्रुतं च दृष्टवत् दुष्टं स्पर्धा असूय अत्यव्ययैः बहु अंतराय कामत्वात् कृषिवच्च अपि निष्फलम् अंतरायैः अविहितः यदि धर्म स्व अनुष्ठितः तेन अपि निर्जितं स्थानं यथा गच्छति तत् शृणु. इष्ट्वा इह देवता यज्ञैः स्वः लोकं याति याज्ञिकः भुजित देवता भोगान् दिव्यान् निज अर्जितान् स्वपुण्य उपचिते शुभ्रे विमाने उपगीयते गन्धर्वै विहरन् मध्ये देवीनां हृदयवेश दृक. श्रीभिः कामगयानेन किङ्किणी जालम् आलिना क्रीडन वेद आत्मपातं सुरा अक्रीडेषु निवृत्तः तावत् स मोदते स्वर्गे यावत् पुण्यं समाप्यते क्षीण पुण्य पतति यार्वाक् अनिच्छन् कालचालितः. यदि अधर्मरतः संघात असतां वा विचित इंद्रियः काम आत्मा कृपण लुब्धः श्रेणाभूत विहिंसकः पशून् अविधिना आलभ्य प्रेत भूत गणान् यजन् नरकान् अवशः जन्तुः गत्वा याति उल्बणं तमः कर्माणि दुःख उदरकाणि कुर्वन् देन तेहि पुनः देहम् आभजते तत्र किं सुखं मर्त्यधर्मिणः. Translation and purport by the Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Although the performer of fruitive activities desires perpetual happiness, it is clearly absorbed that materialistic workers are often unhappy and only occasionally satisfied, thus proving that they are not independent or in control of their destiny. When a person is always under the superior control of another, how can he expect any valuable results from his own fruitive actions? It is observed within the material world that Sometimes even an intelligent person is not happy. Similarly, sometimes even a grateful is happy. The concept of becoming happy through expertly performing material activities is simply a useless exhibition of false egotism. Even if people know how to achieve happiness and avoid unhappiness, they still do not know the process by which death will not be able to exert its power over them. Death is not at all pleasing. And since everyone is exactly like a condemned man being led to the place of execution, what possible happiness can people derive from material objects or the gratification they provide? The material happiness of which we hear, such as promotion to heavenly planets for celestial enjoyment, is just like that. Material happiness we have already experienced. Both are polluted by jealousy, envy, decay, and death. Therefore, just as an attempt to raise crops become fruitless if there are many problems like crop disease, insect plague, or drought, similarly, the attempt to attain material happiness either on earth or on the heavenly planet is always fruitless because of innumerable obstacles. If one performs Vedic sacrifices and fruit rituals without any mistake or contamination, one will achieve heavenly situation in the next life. But even this result, which is only achieved by perfect performance of fruity rituals, will be vanquished by time. Now hear of this. If on earth one performs sacrifices for the satisfaction of the demigods, he goes to the heavenly planets, where, just like a demigods, he enjoys all of the heavenly pleasures he has earned by his performances. Having achieved the heavenly planets, the performer of ritualistic sacrifices travel in a glowing airplane, which he obtains as the result of his piety on earth, being glorified by songs sung by the Gandharvas and dressed in wonderfully charming cloth. He enjoys life surrounded by heavenly goddess, accompanied by heavenly women. The enjoyer of the fruits of sacrifice goes on pleasure rides in a wonderful airplane, which is decorated with circles of tinkling bells and which flies wherever he desires, being relaxed, comfortable, and happy in the heavenly pleasure gardens. He does not consider that he is exhausting the fruits of his piety and will soon fall down to the mortal world until his pious results are used up. The performer of sacrifice enjoys life in the heavenly planets. When the pious results are exhausted, however, he falls down from the pleasure gardens of heaven, being moved against his desire by the force of eternal time. Being is engaged in sinful, irreligious activities, either because of bad association or because of his failure to control his senses, then such a person will certainly develop a personality full of material desires. He thus becomes miserly toward others, greedy, and always anxious to exploit the bodies of human. When the mind is so polluted, one becomes violent and aggressive, and without the authority of Vedic injunction, slaughters innocent animals for sense gratification. Worshipping ghosts and spirits, that bewildered person falls fully into the grip of unauthorized activities and thus goes to hell, where he receives a material body infected by the darkest modes of nature. In such a degraded body, he unfortunately continues to perform inauspicious activities that greatly increase his future unhappiness, and therefore he again accepts a similar material body. What possible happiness can there be for one who engages in activities inevitably terminating in death? Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Although materialistic persons reject Krishna consciousness and instead pursue temporary sense gratification, even that sense gratification is often beyond their reach. If a person could really control his destiny, why would he create problems for himself? No intelligent person would impose death, old age, or disease upon himself or his loved ones. One should recognize that these unwanted miseries are forced upon one by a higher power, since we are all obviously under superior control. The atheistic philosophy advising one to simply perform fruitive activities and create a happy life is most imperfect. Due to the influence of time, happiness and misery are created. When a woman becomes pregnant, her husband, relatives, and friends eagerly await the birth of the child. As time passes and the child is born, everyone feels great happiness. But as the child grows into old age and eventually dies, that same passage of time is a cause of suffering. Ignorant persons vainly seek help from scientists who work feverishly and fruitlessly in their laboratories to stop death. In modern times, inventions have been created to eliminate the inconveniences of life, but the maintenance and production of such conveniences has proven to be unbearably inconvenient for hundreds of millions of people throughout the world. Only the most foolish person will propose that there is no superior controller and that one can achieve favorable results by expert performance of material activities. Ultimately, all material activities are useless because they end in annihilation. If one is driving a car but has only limited control, the situation is most dangerous and must lead inevitably to disaster. Similarly, although we are trying to direct the material body to happiness, we are not in full control of the bodily demands, and therefore there will be inevitably be disaster, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.3. Ashraddadana Purusha Dharmasya Asya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me. O conqueror of foes, but it and death material world. If one is not a duty of Lord Krishna, the please back eventual result of activities is simply mrityu samsar, repeated birth and death. It may be argued that an intelligent person can expertly perform pious activities within the material world and thus never experience suffering, since unhappiness is caused by sinful or impious activities. However, we often observe great suffering even among pious, intelligent persons because they sometimes fail in the execution of their duty and sometimes consciously or unconsciously perform a forbidden activity. With this argument, the Lord refutes the theory that simply on the strength of material piety, one may remain perpetually happy without Krishna consciousness. On the other hand, we observe that Even the most foolish or sinful persons sometimes experiences happiness because even those completely dedicated to sin sometimes accidentally perform pious activities by advertently traveling through a holy place or helping a saintly person. The material creation of God is so complex and bewildering that even those dedicated to piety sometimes commit sins, and even those dedicated to sinful life sometimes perform pious action. Therefore, within the material world, we do not find absolute happiness or unhappiness. Rather, every conditioned soul is whoring in confusion without perfect knowledge. Piety and sin are relative ideas that bestow happiness and unhappiness. Absolute happiness is experienced on the spiritual platform in full Krishna consciousness or love of God. Thus, material life is always ambiguous and relative, whereas Krishna consciousness is the actual platform of perfect happiness. If the so-called intelligent realist know the means of achieving happiness and destroying unhappiness, then they should deliver people from inevitable death. The scientists are busily working to solve this problem, but since they have completely failed, it is understood that they are not actually intelligent and that they do not know the means of achieving happiness and eliminating misery. It is most foolish to think that one can be happy with an X hanging over one's neck. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mrityuhu sarva racha aham. Myself come before you as death and take everything away. We should not blindly ignore the disaster of material life, but should instead accept the Lord's causeless mercy, which he so magnanimously offered in his incarnation as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We should surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord Chaitanya, who offers the real means for achieving unqualified happiness, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. This is the Lord's desire, and it is in our own self interest to take up this process. It is customary throughout the world that a condemned man is offered a sumptuous lost meal. For the condemned man, however, such a feast is a chilling reminder of his imminent death, and therefore he cannot enjoy it. Similarly, no sane human being can be satisfied in material life because death is standing near and may strike at any moment. If one is sitting in one's living room with a deadly snake at one side, knowing that at any moment the poisonous fangs might pierce the flesh, how can one sit peacefully and watch television or read a book? Similarly, unless one is more or less crazy, one cannot be enthusiastic or even peaceful in material life. Knowledge of the inevitability of death should encourage one to become determined in spiritual life. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments as follows on this verse. Ordinarily, if there is no specific impediment, agricultural endeavors will yield their fruits. If, however, there is a defect in the seed, or if the soil is too salty or barren, or if there is drought, plague, excessive rain, or heat out of season, or if there are disturbances caused by animals, birds, or insects, then agricultural activities will not yield the desired harvest. Similarly, those who are expert in analyzing the material world see that the heavenly situation offered in the Vedas are not basically different from life on the earth. By the interaction of conditioned souls, there will inevitably be jealousy as one becomes distinguished as superior and another as inferior. By the power of time, these positions are reversed, and therefore violence and intrigue disturb life even on the heavenly planets. In fact, the attempts to promote oneself to the heavenly planets is itself full of problems and disturbances. One should therefore understand that the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha, is transcendental to the limitations and disturbances imposed by the laws of material nature. In this world, if one wrongly concludes that such imperfections are also present in the kingdom of God, then one will be polluted by material contamination. The word gachati means going. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna states, agamapaina nitya. Agamapaina anitya. All material experiences, good or bad, come and go. Therefore, the word gachati refers to the disappearance of the result of even the most meticulously performed fruitive sacrifices. Any material any material situation uh, from uh, from the worst to the best is imperfect. Thus, one should strive only for pure Krishna consciousness. In the Vedic analysis of civilized life, there are two paths. One who takes to the path of Nivrutti Marga immediately renounces material sense gratification and purifies his existence by performance of austerity and devotional activities on the path of Pravrutti Marga. One furnishes the steady supply of sense objects to the senses, but one consumes such sense objects under strict regulations and through ritualistic ceremonies, thus gradually purifying the heart and satiating the material senses. Unfortunately, as explained in this and the previous verse, the path of Pravrutti Marga is extremely volatile because rather than becoming detached, the living entity often becomes uncontrolled and fully addicted to further sense gratification. In the previous verse, the path of regulated, authorized sense gratification was described, and in this verse, the path of unauthorized demoniac sense gratification is described. In this verse, the words Sangat Asatam Vijitendriya are uh, va, va Jitendriya are very significant. One may fall down into sinful life by bad association, or even in good association. One may fail to control his senses. Ultimately, his living entity is responsible for his existential situation. The word adharmarata in this verse indicates those engaged in excessive sex life, meat eating, drinking, and other inauspicious activities that transgress the course of civilized human life. Being in the mode of ignorance, this person develops such a cruel mentality that they do not consider any festive occasion complete without the consumption of large quantities of meat obtained by slaughtering helpless animals. Eventually, such persons become influenced by ghosts and spirits who deprive them of all ability to discriminate between right and wrong. Losing all sense of decency, they become fit candidates for entrance into the darkest modes of material existence. Sometimes these lusty, intoxicated carnivorous, considering themselves pious, pray to God in a useless way. Afflicted by innumerable material desires, they rotate from one material body to another without experiencing true happiness. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has noted that material life is so disturbing that even if one is allowed to live for an entire day of Brahma, approximately 8 obj 64 crore years, one will eventually be afflicted by the fear of death. In fact, Brahma himself is disturbed by fear of death. What to speak of tiny human beings who live a paltry 70 or 80 years at most. Thus, as stated here, Kim Sukam Mrityu Mrit Martya Kim Sukam Martya Dharminah. What possible happiness can one find within the painful grip of material illusion? Thus end the purpose. Now prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Ena Tasmai Sri Gurave Nama Sri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Sthapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavancha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitancha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhecha Krupa Sindhubhe Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Dandavat Pranam. We continuing Srimad Bhagwatam Canto 11 Chapter 10 The Nature of Fruity Activities. And namingly we know that this chapter's name is Fruity Activities Nature means Swabhav. What happened if we do the fruity activities? Why we do not doing fruity activities in because any work we do that fruits we if we are not doing those activities for the service of the Lord Krishna or Supreme Personality of Godhead that bonded us and that described in this chapter in shloka number from we try to understand from shloka 17 to 29. Most important point here in these shlokas, they describe that intelligent person can expertly perform pious activities within material world and thus never experience suffering since unhappiness is caused by sinful or impious activity. But every activities uh, we suffer or happiness achieved. And observe great suffering even among pious, intelligent persons. So the material life is only always ambiguous and relative, whereas Krishna consciousness is the actual platform for perfect happiness. When we in the platform of the Krishna consciousness, then we achieve the real perfect happiness. Like this, they describe, and ahead, what they describe, we try to understand. Tomorrow, Prabhuji will tell you some few examples or points clearly. Hare Krishna Dandavat Pranam. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. हरे कृष्ण दंडवत प्रणाम.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji, for allowing an opportunity to discuss this particular point further. So just look at it and just try to visualize you are in the best of the places of the whole universe. It's a very cozy place. You are there. Whatever you like to eat, maybe gulab jamuns, rasgullas, maybe namkeens, whatever you like, it's available on the platter. You also have your favorite soft drinks, milk, lassis, whatever you like available. There's a big 108-inch television with surround sound system, cool atmosphere, all the material comforts that one can ever think of are available. Anyone would love to be in such a place. But then there's a small additional condition. There's a tiger in the room who is hungry. There's a python with his mouth wide open, and there are snakes slithering around. Now, so all the comforts that we see actually even in material world are something like this imaginary situation. So whatever little sukh, happiness, enjoyment we strive to achieve, there's always the tiger in the form of Kala, death available. There's always Python in the form of the Trigunas ready to afflict us. There's always snakes in the form of hardships, grievances, dissatisfactions surrounding us. So even if we get the best of the moods for enjoyment, we'll never be able to enjoy because we don't know when death will finally strike us. Similarly, material happiness that we hear as going to the heavenly planets for celestial enjoyment, it's nothing different from this material happiness. And once our good deeds, results of those are over, will be thrown out. So, any attempt to attain material happiness, either on earth or heavenly planets, is actually useless. And there are going to be innumerable obstacles in it. So, though we desire perpetual happiness, if we remain materialistic, we'll only get unhappiness. Maybe at some point in time we may feel satisfied, but then that is not in our control. There's another superior control which is looking into all these things. So, an intelligent person is never happy in the material world. The concept of becoming happy by expertly performing material activities itself is useless. And so we need to understand how to achieve happiness, how to avoid unhappiness, how to ensure that death will not be able to overpower us. Because death is not at all pleasing. We have seen this 40,000 scorpions biting you at same time. That is the kind of pain which we'll be getting if you are taken away by Yamdutas. So why do we want to face such death? When we have an opportunity of the Vishnu Dutas, Devdutas coming and taking us with them to Vaikuntha, to Golok Vrindavan. If we are striving to avoid that, to get material benedictions through Vedic sacrifices, yajnas, fruitive rituals, then it can only give us a heavenly life, nothing more. And that too, if you have not made any mistake or contamination. If you're trying to please demigods, we'll go to the demigods. Krishna has clearly said this, that we'll go to the Loka whom we worship. So it is always better that we worship Krishna. We go to the place where we believe. That is something which we need to avoid. So what is important is that we should continuously insist only and only of remembering about Krishna. Because that is what Krishna has said. Manmanabho madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yuktava eva atmanam matparayana. Engage your mind always thinking me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. This is what Krishna has said. So, what we need to understand is this material world, material activities are only added distractions to our ultimate objective, which we should not allow to disturb us. Whether it is celestial world where we can have association of Gandharvas or beautiful damsels out there, it is not going to be useful. Whatever are the pleasure gardens there, it's still not useful. So we should avoid all such things. They are all impediments. And definitely, if you have been doing unfortunate bad activities, then you are going to be in hell. That is clearly mentioned. So let us stick to only serving Krishna, remembering Krishna, and going back home, back to Godhead, happily chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for attending the session.